Hello again, Rob Brough. Tonight, Yeppoon locks down and islands evacuate as Cyclone Yassi approaches. Lashing rain and 100-kilometre winds are forecast for Central Queensland. We'll have the details tonight at 6. See you then.
Serving Central Queensland, this is 7 Local News.
Tonight, Yeppoon locks down and islands evacuate as Yassi approaches.
Lashing rain and 100-kilometre winds forecast.
Vandals destroy Maura's town pride.
Interest rates and floods crush building confidence.
Good evening, thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
First up tonight, emergency services are on the scene of a deadly smash on the Bruce Highway south of the Calliope Crossroads. A man was killed in the accident involving 3 cars and 1 truck. The highway has been shut in both directions. Severe tropical cyclone Yassi has powered further north overnight, but Central Queensland won't escape its fury. The Weather Bureau is warning destructive winds and up to 100 millimetres of rain will lash the region from early Thursday morning.
And evacuations of the Keppel Islands have begun as Cyclone Yassi edges closer towards Queensland. Residents on the Capricorn coast have spent the day strapping down their boats and securing their belongings.
The path of Cyclone Yassi is still somewhat unpredictable as it nears the coast, with coastal communities from Cooktown to Yeppoon likely to be impacted in varying degrees. 7 Local News meteorologist Livio Regano has the latest.
Well, the ground plan is basically the same as yesterday, except the forecast path for Yassi is now a little further north, with all models roughly agreeing on a crossing somewhere near Cairns in the wee hours of Thursday. The monstrous Category 3 vortex is still growing and will probably reach Category 4 tonight, with a cyclone warning now current for all coastal and island communities between Cape Melville and Serena, extending inland as well. Now, at this stage, we're talking wind gusts over 170 kilometres an hour between Cardwell and Port Douglas by tomorrow evening, with hazardous swells right down to New South Wales and a far mightier storm surge than we saw with Anthony. Yassi's sheer size will mean flooding rains not just on the tropical coast, but right across the central and western interior for up to 24 hours following the crossing. Now, of course, we're hoping the flooded Fitzroy catchment will be spared the worst, but it's just too early to say.
Thanks for that, Livio. And Livio will have more detailed weather information a little later in the bulletin. Now, Channel 7 will present a special extended edition of Sunrise tomorrow as Cyclone Yassi approaches. Koshi and Mel will be hosting live from Queensland from 5 a.m. Ahead tonight in 7 Local News, the twin saltwater crocs causing a stir.
And a former Rocky butcher carving up the competition on TV.
You're watching 7 Local News. A 34-year-old Rockhampton man has been charged with arson after allegedly setting his unit on fire. Fire crews were called to the George Street residence at 7 p.m. on Sunday. No one was injured in the blaze, but the interior of the unit was destroyed. The man will appear in the Rockhampton Magistrates Court on February the 18th.
A former Rockhampton butcher is doing the beef capital proud, turning TV star for cooking show My Kitchen Rules. Jonathan Brown, or Johnny, now lives on the Sunshine Coast and has partnered with his boss, Artie, for the cutthroat competition. It was a rocky start, with the pair butchering their entree of chicken and bug meat roulade with a frangelico sauce. All right, Nathan, sport time, mate. Now, the Cougars' rocky pre-season continues, eh?
Yeah, Broughy, illness hasn't just affected their coach, but players as well. More next, plus Yeppoon's Adam Blythe on his US PGA Tour dreams. And with a New Zealand international on his way, this year's Comets form the club's strongest lineup yet.
After the local news, monster cyclone Yassi surging towards North Queensland. Warnings of destructive winds and a massive storm surge. Thousands scrambled to get out of its path. Airports packed, hospitals on standby to be evacuated. Predictions on where and when Yassi will hit, and John Schluter's latest forecast.
You're watching 7 Local News. Former New Zealand international Tavita Leolatu will start training with the Comets next week. The ex-NRL and Super League player will complete the star-studded team list. The club expects to win this year's Q Cup. Yeah, guys, good to see Adam Blythe in town. That young kid, Broughy, much better golf swing than yours, I have to say.
It's like a little tiger, wasn't he?
Stay with us after the break. Livio has all the weather details on Cyclone Yassi. That's coming up for us shortly.
Good evening, Livio Regano with tonight's weather. A tropical cyclone warning's been declared for coastal areas north of Serena, but thankfully the cyclone watch extending to Yeppoon has been cancelled. Cyclone Yassi is no joke. We're expecting it to cross near Cairns in the dark hours of Wednesday, Thursday, with strong winds and widespread rain extending into central Queensland. Temperatures today 24 to 31 degrees in Rockhampton with humidity 64%. Gladstone also got 31, Billawheeler 32, Yeppoon 30, Emerald 34. On the satellite loop now, firstly folks, you've got what's left of Tropical Cyclone Anthony still hovering down there in the southwest, producing quite a bit of rain and severe storms, would you believe. Otherwise, just a couple of storms up and down the Queensland coastal range, but otherwise it seems Tropical Cyclone Yassi is cannibalising all the moisture and keeping the rest of Queensland at the moment reasonably dry. Now on today's chart, Tropical Cyclone Yassi, it's an enormous system, it's a monster. Category 3 at the moment, but very quickly intensifying, probably reach Category 4 very soon tonight, and heading on a west-southwesterly course at the moment. Now there's a cyclone warning from Cape Melville all the way down to Serena, and on tomorrow's chart what we'll see is that the cyclone starts to take a west-southwesterly track. At this stage we're expecting a crossing possibly somewhere between Cooktown and Townsville, either in the early hours of Thursday or maybe late Wednesday night. There'll be lots of rain and storms. We're expecting gusts up to 170 kilometres an hour as the cyclone crosses. On the outlook chart, once it crosses, we could see another 24 hours of widespread heavy rain before the cyclone actually turns into a low. And now the official forecasts. In coastal waters from St Lawrence to Burnett Heads, a strong wind warning north of Gladstone, southeasterlies to northeasterlies up to 33 knots, and then a 4-metre swell offshore. So I think staying at home is probably a good idea. And by Friday the winds will ease, of course. Now tomorrow's high tides at Roslyn Bay around 8:49 a.m, Port Alma 8:58, Gladstone 9:04. The Capricornia district forecast showers and storms, some squally rain in the north with strengthening winds, rain easing on Thursday, and then on Friday just showers and storms. Central Highlands and coalfields, rain and storms developing late, and then on Thursday some squally rain, but it will ease during the afternoon. Tomorrow's temps, Rockhampton 32 degrees, Gladstone 31, Yeppoon 29, Billawheeler 32, Emerald 33. The Rockhampton City forecast, Buckley's chance of a 4-day outlook in this kind of scenario, but things generally get better after a cyclone makes landfall. Hurricanes, typhoons and tropical cyclones, they're just different names for the same thing. A North American hurricane is equivalent to a severe tropical cyclone, except it revolves the opposite way. If it happens in the Asian Pacific, it's called a typhoon. Sleep peacefully, my friends. Full coverage on Yassi this time tomorrow. Back to you, Joe.
Okay, thanks for that, Livio. And that's 7 local news for this Tuesday night. Thanks for your company.
A reminder of our email address, localnews@7.com.au. Take care. See you tomorrow. Good night.
See you then. Good night.